The stars are too quiet tonight. Not silent, quiet. Like something vast is holding its breath, deciding whether to speak or to feed. I felt them again when the station lights dimmed without warning. Not a mechanical failure, not a power loss. It was the hush of an audience settling in as the performance begins. A slow, deliberate darkness, as if the void itself wanted a better view. The sensors picked up no vessels, no signatures, no motion. Yet the pressure in the hull deepened, subtle but unmistakable, a presence leaning closer. We used to tell ourselves they were hiding, cowardice, distance, disinterest. But the black glass outside my viewport tells another story. Their absence is staged, curated, rehearsed. Someone, something, is watching us behind that Vantablack curtain. I keep asking myself, in the dim blue afterglow of emergency lights, if the universe is a cage, who is standing just beyond the bars? Log entry. Station, Phronema-Six. Timestamp, corrupted. Recorder, last remaining consciousness. The commanders once mocked the zoo hypothesis, said it was primitive, said it was human narcissism, said no species advanced enough to cross stars would waste time observing us. But they didn't understand. Observation isn't waste, it's investment. The deeper I drift into this derelict station, the more I realize the hypothesis was never a theory. It was an accidental confession, a moment when humanity briefly glimpsed the bars of its enclosure. I review the footage continuously, not for answers, but for patterns, because patterns are the fingerprints of watchers. Frame by frame, the black outside stutters, a warp of pixels, a shiver of chromatic aberration blooming at the edges. I thought it was an error in the camera array. Then I saw it happen with my unaided eyes. A faint ripple across the stars, like a massive lens adjusting focus. The universe is not expanding. It is being reframed. Every now and then, the reframing syncs with my breathing. On the exhale, the void dims. On the inhale, it brightens again, as if something ancient were matching my rhythm out of amusement or study. I walk the corridors, the cold blue LEDs flickering, scattering broken shadows. The floor vibrates occasionally, not from engines. From footsteps too large to belong to this station. We used to believe they were avoiding us, that we were beneath notice. But the zoo hypothesis states something worse. They intend the distance. The space between us is curated, like the thickness of glass in an exhibit. The more we reach outward, the more resistance we feel. Not overt, that would reveal their hand, but subtle. A missing probe, a corrupted transmission, a dead explorer found floating with eyes open, pupils dilated from something they saw and could not contain. I think about all the vanished missions, all the silent colonies, all the sensors that captured movement where nothing visible passed. I used to believe in statistical anomalies. Now, I believe in supervisors. The ancients imagined gods watching from the sky. They weren't wrong, just naive about scale. When I close my eyes, I can feel them adjusting me, not physically, metaphysically, like the shift of invisible gloves repositioning a specimen. Memory blurs at the edges, turning soft and unreliable. Was I alone when the station fell? Was there a crew? Did they perish? Or were they removed from the frame? I find scraps of uniforms with no bodies inside, as if the flesh evaporated, but the fabric remained. Smooth, clean, precise erasures. Erased not by violence, but by editing. Sometimes the speakers crackle with faint murmurs, clicks, hums, breathing that isn't human, audio artifacts resembling language, a dialect not meant for vocal cords, only for transmission. When I play the recordings in reverse, the frequencies align, not perfectly, but close enough to imply intent. Intent implies interest. Interest implies control, and control implies captivity. The exterior drones have stopped responding. Before they went dark, they transmitted a final frame. The stars were gone. Not clouded, not hidden. Gone, like curtains drawn shut. The frame flickered, and for a moment, just a heartbeat. I saw shapes behind the darkness, outlines so large they didn't move. They shifted space around them, contours that seemed to extend beyond the geometry of our physics, as if their bodies were permitted more dimensions than we can perceive. One shape bent slightly, as though leaning closer, as though examining a fragile thing, me, or humanity. The zoo hypothesis claims civilizations remain silent to avoid disturbing primitive species, allowing them to develop naturally. But we have never developed naturally. Every technological leap arrives with uncanny timing, just early enough for progress, just late enough to keep us contained. We only call them breakthroughs because we have never considered the possibility of leash lengths. My chest tightens as I write this. Not panic. Something older. Recognition. I replay an old childhood memory, though I cannot trust its authenticity anymore. A zoo I visited once, standing before a glass enclosure. Inside, a creature paced the same 3 steps, over and over, never realizing the barrier was transparent, never realizing every movement was observed. Visitors whispered, "Look how curious it is. Look how unaware." I didn't understand then, but I do now. We are pacing in a cosmic terrarium. The darkness is the glass, and the watchers wait behind it, patiently, until something in us becomes interesting enough to justify intervention or consumption. The station's long-range telescope rebooted for 3.4 seconds before burning out. In that tiny window, it registered something impossible. The cosmic microwave background flickered, as if an artificial light source had switched off temporarily. Not background radiation, background illumination. Someone turned down the lights. Why? To see us better. My hands shake as I type this. The hull groans again, like an animal dreaming of waking. I can feel them deciding, not whether to reveal themselves, but whether to open the enclosure. And nothing alive opens a cage unless it is certain the thing inside can no longer threaten the keepers. Everything we believed about extraterrestrial silence was wrong. There is no silence, only suppression. They aren't hiding because they fear us. They are waiting because they own the timeline. Every era of human advancement, writing, metallurgy, engines, electricity, radio, computation, fits too neatly into intervals, like controlled feeding cycles. Civilizations like ours don't last naturally. Entropy corrodes them. Randomness erases them. Yet we survived long enough to reach the stars. Why? Because we were allowed, guided, adjusted, pruned. Zoo hypothesis advocates assumed we were left alone, but isolation is also a form of management. A controlled environment is indistinguishable from abandonment until the keeper returns. The watchers are not distant. They are present. They are simply choosing not to speak yet. Waiting is a form of predation. I understand now why the stars dimmed earlier. It wasn't an eclipse. It was a curtain call. They are preparing an event, an unveiling, A transition from passive observation to active interaction, not contact. Contact implies equality. This will be something else, a reclassification. We are not a civilization. We are a specimen reaching the end of its observational value. My breath fogs in the cold gray air of the station. The lights pulse faintly, matching an external rhythm I cannot identify. A rhythm of something massive, something patient, something adjusting its grip. Every prophecy of end times imagined fire, angels, war. But the real apocalypse is quieter. It looks like an eye opening in the dark. An eye that has waited billions of years to blink. We never noticed the bars of our cage because they were made of distance, silence, and stars. Now those stars are turning toward us, not to greet, but to assess. And once assessment is complete, the keeper must decide what to do with what it has kept. There was never a way out. There was only the waiting, and the waiting is almost over. The darkness outside the viewport is swelling now, not movement, approach, a slow deformation of space, bending inward like a pupil constricting. I feel heat without temperature, pressure without weight, attention without empathy. Something is standing on the other side of the glass of our universe, and it is tired of pretending it isn't there. The zoo hypothesis tried to comfort us with the idea that they were peaceful observers, but peace requires care. Observation requires patience. What I feel pressing against the hull is neither. It is hunger, shaped like curiosity. If you hear this transmission, remember one thing. They were never hiding. They were waiting for the moment we realized the truth, that we were never explorers, only exhibits. The light just went out again, not abruptly, like a decision. Do you want to survive? Subscribe.